Yep, here we go. Good evening, class, and welcome to Binary Gamer. I'm your host, Tony Spears, and this is the show where passionate people talk passionately about the thing that we are passionate about, and that thing is video games. So let's just get all the business out of the way, and then we're going to get a few disclaimers out there, and then we will get to the show proper. Binary Gamer is a show/podcast that you can find on all of your podcasting platforms of choice, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Podcast. If you can find a podcast there, you can find Binary Gamer. You can also check us out over on YouTube. Head over to YouTube, type in Binary Gamers, and you'll find all the awesome stuff we do over there. And of course, you can find us here on Twitch. Head over to Twitch, binary_gamers, and you can watch the show live. And anytime that I go on and record and play dumb video games and do all that hot jazz, you can be over there. So, quick disclaimer, this is 2019. Happy New Year. Hope you had a great holiday. Life is gravy. This is episode 93, and we're closing in on 100, but more importantly, I felt like it was time for the natural evolution of this show, which was to take it live. And thusly, here we are. And we are live here on Twitch to actually perform the same thing that I would do in a pre-recorded setting, except I feel like it's better if I have some type of audience interaction during these types of conversations, because while I could just be sitting here screaming into the ether like a madman, that doesn't do me any good, doesn't do you, the listener, any good. This is more about discourse and about talking about the things that are important about video games and about the culture and about the things that we love about this stuff. So while this will still be available on all of the different podcasting platforms that I mentioned before, it's also going to be more of a natural discourse that's going to take place while we are actually sitting here and talking about this stuff. So with that out of the way, yeah, man, let's just get at it. It's 2019. Let's freaking light this candle, cake this pig. Happy birthday, Dave Mosley. All that good stuff. Let's go. So let's start, as we always do, with the week that was. And that includes the holidays and everything else. So it was a long week that were, as it were. And because of that, I played a lot of stuff, long periods of time where I wasn't playing things, because I was at one point on a 5-day road trip across America. That was rough, to say the least. Definitely learned some lessons there. One, don't drive through Oregon in the wintertime. Don't drive through Kansas in the wintertime. The snow in Wyoming is not as bad as you think. And yeah, coffee's your best friend. and dogs are terrible traveling companions. That's about it. Aside from that, it was a good holiday. Had a lot of fun with my family and friends over Christmas and New Year's and everything like that. Had a really good time, and was very thankful. So as far as what I played in that stretch of time, though, it was a lot of really like low key stuff. As far as like me personally, didn't have a computer with me or anything. Obviously, didn't take any consoles with me. I didn't have any handhelds. My kids had their 2DS and 3DS, so they were playing a lot of a lot of Pokemon going on, a lot of Minecraft. My son is very much into Minecraft, and thusly Minecraft is his life, and he was playing the bejesus out of that. And then a lot of stuff on his tablet. What I've been playing mostly, as far as the mobile side of things, while we were on the road, was whenever we would come to stops and everything, playing a lot of Pokemon Go, and playing a lot of Clickpocalypse 2, which if you're not familiar with Clickpocalypse, you need to go and play it. It is the best. It's one of the best idle games ever, and by idle, I literally mean like I set it down, I leave it alone, my party of adventurers goes through these dungeons and murders a bunch of guys in castles, and it just continues on. The only reason I'm still playing it now is primarily because it has achievements, and I'm trying to get all the achievements. So like right now, I'm doing a lot of solo runs, like solo characters, going through an entire run of the game, and I have a lot of them so far. I think I have like 4 more solos I got to do. Then I have to do a 5-person party. It's crazy, but regardless, that's what I was doing. So then after we got back here, after we got home after the holidays and did all the traveling and everything like that, what have I played? Played a little bit of Monster Hunter. That was a lot of fun to jump back into. Finally got my internet working thanks to the good people over there at the Amazon house. Thank you, Chris Shaber. Best Christmas present ever, along with these awesome Sennheiser headphones. As far as the internet thing is concerned, though, it's actually my wife's doing. I got talked into buying this particular Wi-Fi adapter by Chris Shaber. And because of that, it was awesome. Though we had a hell of a time a couple of nights ago doing the QA for it, if you will, because it just wasn't working. Well, it was working, but I was getting like 1 megabit per second. And because of that, I was like, what the hell's going on? Come to find out, I have 2 bad USB 3 ports in the back of my computer. Who knew? But luckily, Chris came through clutch with his incredible customer support skills. I gotta say, the guy has game when it comes to customer support. He thought it like we were going through. We stopped just short of the BIOS, just short of like going in there and just like rewriting firmware. And luckily, we got that figured out. So yeah, Monster Hunter was a lot of fun because finally got internet, and that was really cool. Haven't really played much Rainbow Six Siege. I wanted to hop back in, but then me and the guys got into some PUBG, and that new snow map is really cool, and still very much a fan of getting shot in the face because I'm horrible at that game, along with all my friends. Still a lot of fun, but I am horrible at that game. So, aside from that, what else was there? Played a lot of Galaga. You guys saw that last night if you saw me on stream. If not, there's a VOD up on YouTube and on Twitch of me breaking my own high score. Yeah, in Galaga. Didn't hit 100,000 yet, though. I'm going to shoot for that pretty soon. And then, let's see. Oh, and then, yeah, PUBG, and then playing some more Dragon Ball Fighter Z and the Piece de Resistance. My kids, due to their amazing uncle, got a Nintendo Switch for their birthday, for their Christmas gift, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And man, oh man, playing some Smash, and that has been fun. Like Smash Brothers is always a fun game. It's always a good time. It's one of those games where even people that don't play video games can have a fun time playing Smash. You just throw down 2 people on a couch, not like Kane, death grip neck drop, but like you set them down, give them 2 controllers, which the Joy-Cons aren't the best intro to video games, but at the same time, it's like, look, man, just do this, take this thing. You set them down, and they can just play. And if you're someone that's played Smash from like N64 on, the way I have, it's just great nostalgia because you're like, oh, like I get to start with Mario and Link and Kirby and freaking Fox and all this stuff, and then you go through and you just keep unlocking characters and pretty soon you're like, everybody is indeed here. Everybody is here, everybody from Nintendo that I give a crap about, just shy of like a handful of characters, is in this one particular game. No Waluigi, breaks my heart, but he's an assist trophy, so I'll take that. Even though he's probably the worst assist trophy in the game, he just runs around. He's like, wah, wah, wah. A lot of that. So been playing a lot of that with my kids, and it's hilarious to watch them play because they play the game very much the way I did when I was a kid, where like they want the fights to be dramatic. Like they want to like be doing flips and like take him out with like this like perfect, like mid-air hacha, hit, and then they fly off of the stage and stuff like that. And like that's what my kids are trying to do. I, on the other hand, am just playing Little Mac and just punching him in the face repeatedly until they finally go down. Then they're like, "Oh man, like why can't we ever beat Dad?" And it's like, because you're trying to be JoJo and I'm being Goku, and like one of us is gonna win. It's not gonna be JoJo. I'll tell you that much right now. For record, yes, that was the JoJo reference. So that game's been a lot of fun. World of Light, surprisingly deep, way deeper than I expected it to be. So deep, in fact, that after I explained it to Chris, because he bought this for the kids and he didn't have Smash himself, he went out and bought the game, and now that's all he's been playing. And I find it hilarious because he's like showing me his builds and stuff like that, and like how far he's gotten and everything. And I'm like, man, I'm not even that far. I mean, I'm glad you're having fun with it, but you're way ahead of me at this point. So that's been a lot of fun. It's been really cool. And that's really been it. My kids got Mario Tennis Aces. That's been a lot of fun. Mario Tennis is always pretty good. It's not the best of the Mario Tennis games in my opinion, but it's not horrible. I have definitely played worse Mario Tennis games, so that's cool. But aside from that, that's really been it. Yeah, that has been it. So that is the week that was. So let's get into the news of what I want to talk about. So we're going to start with some esports stuff, and then we're going to get into something that I personally find freaking fascinating. And right now we're going to start over here with the announcement that Kia is joining as a sponsor for the League of Legends European Championship. Now this comes to us via Esports Observer. So some bullet points here. Again, this comes directly from Esports Observer, so credit to them. Kia will be the official automotive sponsor of the League of Legends European Championship as it moves into its inaugural season. The Korean car brand will also create an original content series with Fnatic, one of the teams competing in the competition. Which, if you didn't think Fnatic was going to compete in League, I don't know where you've been, but okay. This follows Audi's sponsorship agreement with the LEC team Origin, and Tencent's confirmation that Mercedes-Benz will remain the top sponsor for China's professional competition in 2019. Now, there's something about this that's kind of not irritating, but like kind of perplexes me, but at the same time, it's really cool. So Kia coming in to the European League is a big deal because it kind of officially legitimizes the European League for League of Legends, but also at the same time, it's a little perplexing because like Kia is a Korean company. Why didn't they get their foot in the door for the Korean Championship League? I don't understand that. Like, you think it'd be a no-brainer. Like, I understand Samsung. Like, Samsung rules Korea. Like, we know this. Everything has Samsung on it. Buildings are made by Samsung. Granted, like, Samsung has their own, like, construction companies and stuff like that. There's all this stuff, and that's great. But it seems like Kia going the route of the European League is a little weird to me. But at the same time, though, it's a really good thing because the more of these like big name sponsors we get, the Mercedes-Benzes, the Samsungs, the Kias, the more of those that we get into these different esports leagues, the more it kind of, I hate to use this word, but like the more it legitimizes the sport because you're having big known names like large car manufacturers, electronics manufacturers, big companies coming in and putting their name on the side of it, wanting to be, on jerseys and stuff like that. And that's really cool because now people see that and they're like, well, man, like, if Samsung and Kia and, let's say Ford decide that they want to sponsor these leagues, people start to pay attention to that. And I think that's good because, I mean, while these leagues and esports in general has, a huge fan base and a huge following, this only helps it to push its way more into the mainstream. I am all about this. I'm all about esports coming into a more mainstream appeal, because the more it does that, the better. The more we get of that, the more we get of, like one day having like an actual like ESPN of esports, and that is a future that I am really looking forward to, because I'm looking forward to the day when like I can just like sit down on my couch and not have to like bring up YouTube or bring up Twitch or something like that in order to watch a league, like to watch a match or to watch CS:GO or something like that. I can just sit down, turn on TV. Granted, the day that I maybe come back to cable, I don't know, but have that, and then I can just sit there and like watch the Face It Championship, or watch the Capcom Cup, or watch the top 8 of Evo, something like that. Like that's the future I'm hoping for. Granted, I'll probably be old and gray or dead and gone, one of the two, but one can hope. And I'm really hoping that this pushes things further, because now you have like KFC. This news just broke tonight, like that I saw us on r/esports, where I mean, if it's on Reddit, it must be true, yeah. But this is actually backed up by a tweet. But KFC, that's right, the Colonel, Kentucky Fried Chicken, is putting together their own tournament. That's mind bending to me, because if we're doing that, then everybody's in this game. Everybody is able to do this. Everything is up for grabs. No holds barred. Everything is awesome, and that's great. And I personally am looking forward to someone holding up a giant gold-plated KFC bucket. That's what I want. And I want like 2 drumsticks to be coming out of it, and it just like you're holding it up, and it's like, yeah, it's great, and it's just dripping with grease. That's what I want. That's what I'm hoping for. But that might just be me. So moving on from that, we have some pretty big news. This is outside of esports now, but this is big. So unfortunately, the papers have been signed, and Bungie is splitting with Activision. I know, it's heartbreaking. I don't know who's going to get the kids. Well, I do know that Bungie is leaving with Destiny, which is pretty much all the kids. So this is a big deal. So this comes to us via PC Gamer, and this is as of 3 days ago. Surprise announcement out of Activision reveals that it is parting ways with Destiny 2 developer Bungie. The studio will retain control of the shared world sci-fi shooter going forward. Tensions between Bungie and Activision have been simmering for a while, as evidenced late last year when Activision said that Destiny 2 Forsaken wasn't performing as well as it had hoped. Game director Luke Smith responded publicly by saying, "We are not disappointed with Forsaken. We set out to build a game that Destiny players would love, and at Bungie, we love it too." So this is a two-sided coin here, a double-edged sword, if you will, because Activision has, for a very long time, been in the business of making big budget titles. That's their bread and butter. That's what they do. They want to make stuff that is going to smash sales records year after year after year. And Destiny has already, especially with Destiny 2, has already come in and made its mark. Any DLC going forward, all you're doing is just sustaining your player base. That is it. You are at the very most, like maximum, going to be getting on maybe a couple hundred, maybe a couple thousand new players when they hear about balance changes and things like that. But for the most part, you're sustaining your player base. So when a DLC expansion like this, even a big DLC expansion, comes out, when you're saying that it's not performing as well as you want it to, you're kind of selling your development team and all the people involved really short, because they've put in a buttload of time and effort, and now you're sitting here saying like, well, they did pretty good, but yeah, it's just not selling. Like, come on, man. That's like me making like an amazing omelet after I made you awesome pancakes, and you being like, well, I mean, the pancakes started out good, but this omelet, man, not as good as we thought it would be. Well, you're still here for the omelet. Come on, like you paid for the omelet. Maybe it's a bad analogy, but my point stands. And I can see where the people at Bungie would not be okay with these statements, and at some point be like, "Oh man, you know what? We're out." And because they hold rights to Bungie and not to Bungie, to Destiny 2, and decide to hop ship, well, now that's their baby and they can do what they want. And the great thing is now they're not just tied to just doing Destiny. They can do whatever they want. They can go back. They can go back to making Halo again if they want to, which there's actually probably quite a few people that would be okay with that. But at the same time, it gives them more freedom because like Activision is not like the big bad here. They just have like expectations and sales goals that aren't they're not realistic for what Bungie is doing. Like Bungie wants to sustain their player base, keep onesies and twosies coming in still, but at the same time, they're more about like, okay, like what do our players want? We need to listen to our community and we need to build from there. A prime example is like Warframe. I've talked about Warframe in the past about the sustainability of their community and how their developer to community relations is probably top notch, top tier. If you're not taking a page from their book when it comes to how to interact and to meld the wants and desires of your community with the capability of your development team, then you're not studying the right books. And I think that Bungie is on their way to that. And I think that they realize that Activision's outlook on it is not going to foster that. And it's not necessarily Activision's fault. They're not. That's not the mentality they have. Bungie wants to go and do better by their player base, and so they part ways. And that's just life, man. Like partnerships come and they go. A lot of people have been having feelings about Activision Blizzard lately because it seems like they cannot do right. Which, don't get me wrong, they've been doing a lot of wrong, but it's very much that the Activision Blizzard side of things is not keeping the player base happy, and people aren't exactly excited. So it makes sense that Bungie decided that they wanted to leave. And I mean, I'm not bad with that. I'm not mad at that. Let's see. Is there anything else here? Let's see here. No, I mean nothing else really to point out here in the article. Again, thank you to PC Gamer. All credit to them. So now we move on to the story here, and this is going to come to us via the Video Game History Foundation. Of course, it's 2019. Did you think we were going to leave the educational portion of this show in the dust? Ha! No, we're still here to teach my kids, and what better to teach than with just straight up archaeology. So, in a very Indiana Jones-esque story, I'm going to take you back, and then we're going to, well, we're going to do the way back thing, and we're going to fly around 26 years, or 27 actually. So, here we go. So, one of the launch games for the SNES, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, way back in the day, was SimCity. For those of you that had at least one computer education class in school, SimCity is probably the first thing that comes to your brain when you think of PC games. SimCity is awesome. SimCity 2000 is even better. SimCity 3, meh. I mean, there's ebbs and flows and stuff like that, but now you have like the natural progression in a game like City Skylines. You don't see a lot of city building games anymore. In fact, City Skylines is probably the one that has stayed around. And that's not a bad thing. But SimCity is where it all started. Now, SimCity was made by Will Wright and was also part of a partnership with Shigeru Miyamoto, who you might know as being the literal father of Mario and the Legend of Zelda series. So keep that in mind. So SimCity comes out for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Everybody is up in arms about this thing because it is so freaking rad. Everybody's having a good time. And the game takes off, spawns bajillions of freaking sequels and hours of fun and memories and nostalgia. Life is good. But before that, in 1991, going way back now, at the Winter Consumer Electronics Show, there was a version of SimCity that was shown, and never came to be released, never saw the light of day after this particular CES. And that's because it was for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Just the NES, not the SNES, no Super involved. So here's the funny thing about it. So life goes on. And at some point, the game just like floats around as more rumors than anything else, but is pretty much in obscurity at that point. So this last year, well, not 18 but 17, 2 cartridges with the unfinished, essentially like demo version of the NES port of SimCity show up at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and this sends the like preservation and collectors sides of the internet abuzz, because there's this version of SimCity floating around out there that, one, no one has seen aside from like a handful of people at the 91 CES, and 2, there's no other record of it. So at this point now, they have to get their hands on it, and this is where the Video Game History Foundation comes in. Frank Cifaldi and the people over there go through and they talk to the owner of the cartridges, which I'm going to find here in this particular. Let's see here. Okay. Got it here, and it is. Okay, so it doesn't actually give the name of the person that had the 2 cartridges. Now, mind you, there were 2 of them. 2. One person that purchased one of them was a Christian Dietering. His picture is in the article on the Video Game History Foundation website if you want to go check it out. It's actually really cool. But the cool thing about it is that like this thing was shown, and then they just completely forewent the idea of publishing it. There's no real reasoning or telling as to why, mostly because like a lot of the stuff that on the Nintendo side of it, a lot of the history behind it is like kind of shut off, and no one's gonna talk about that. Especially the people that were around back then, they're not around to talk about it now. So, well, some of them, but a lot of them just don't care, and it's just the matter of trying to get them sat down to talk about this stuff. That can get hard, but that's not the point. The point being is what makes this really weird is that these are in 2 demo carts. What that means is whenever cart-based games were being shown at like CES or what would eventually turn into E3, different conventions and stuff like that, they had these particular cartridges that you could essentially take the board in and out of like almost on the fly. They weren't permanently mounted into the board. And because of that, you could just like take the board out of the cartridge, put it in a box, something like that. Take another another board out, slap it into the cart, close the back real fast, slam it into a nest, and then play that game. It was like a piece for demoing more than anything else. Well, that's what these 2 copies were in, is these prototype cartridges. And it's weird to think about, because while in the article even says, it's a very good article, by the way, and I will link it in the VOD for this episode as well as the audio podcast. One of the things that is really, really cool about this article is they explain that the game's similarities to SimCity for the Super Nintendo are striking. And it's one of those things where, realistically, if it had come out for the NES, you would have had a comparable experience to what you had on the Super Nintendo. And that's amazing when you think about it. Like, at the time when the Super Nintendo was still fresh but coming up, and the NES was on its way out, the sunsetting years, if you will, they were really stretching what that system could do. And Will Wright had originally made SimCity to run on PCs, but came over to make a port for the Nintendo after Shigeru Miyamoto was trying to come up with a sandbox type game, and saw SimCity and realized that there was one that already existed. They just needed to bring it to the Nintendo. So they originally started making it for the NES, and then at some point realized, well, the Super Nintendo has way more power. These cartridges have way more space and more RAM functionality. We'll just do it here. And so they did all this development for the NES version of it, and then just like showed it once and was like, well, okay, that's cool, and away they went. That is madness to me because it's so like it's really freaking cool. Granted, yes, like simpler color palettes, simpler sprites, like is the animation limited? Yes, all these things and more. But at the same time, the overall functionality of the game is intact when you're putting them side by side. Now, granted, it's an unfinished version of the game, so there's parts missing. There's whole scenarios that won't play out. Like a lot of the like disaster relief scenarios and stuff that you saw in like SimCity for the Super Nintendo, even like SimCity on the PC, they don't trigger. Like no part of the program is calling them up, and like there's no boats. I think the way that like the airport evolves with the size of your city and stuff like that doesn't happen because it's not triggered. But then you have like the full soundtrack is in there and things like that. So like this game came along so well, and then at some point they just kind of set it down, and it's sad from a person that loves playing these types of games. I love the SimCity series. I love city builders. Period. Like games like SimCity, Roller Coaster Tycoon, any game where you're like given these like pieces to make a thing, to make your own little world and all that stuff. Like I am 100% down with that. Love those games. But it's really the thing that's really awesome is from a preservation standpoint, this is probably one of the best finds in probably the last 5 years. Because if it had not been for them finding this, then it would have stayed in someone's collection. That would have been great. But at some point, this card is going to go bad, and then you can't play it anymore. Then what do you do? And so I think it's really cool that the people over at the Video Game History Foundation were able to get their hands on it, and at the very least, just they did a massive ROM dump, and now everything is digital. So you can actually go over to Internet Archive and check out all this stuff. In fact, I'm pretty sure, if I read it correctly in the article, that you can pretty much play the game, like download it and play it. And it's not complete, but you can still go and see it, and you can see a bit. So if you have an emulator on your PC, go to Internet Archive and check it out. It is really cool. And that's the kind of stuff that I like. That's the stuff that I love is the like the finds like this, but also still seeing like I check in on the Video Game History Foundation, just about 2-3 times a month, just see what's going on, what's fresh. A lot of really good stuff happening. I wonder if the storage size issues of the NES could have caused them to drop the production. That's a really good question. I mean, it is possible, but not to take it too hard off of what I was saying, but no, you make a good point. I mean, it is possible, yes, that those carts weren't like small by any means compared to like what they were programming for when it came to the NES. If you think about it, like a game like Zelda 2 is on a NES cart, and the only thing that makes it different from any other NES cart is it has the battery backup. Aside from that, though, it's the same architecture, and that's a big game. Like The Legend of Zelda is a big game, and there's a lot of computing going on there. I think games like River City Ransom, like those games push the limitations. Now, I'm pretty sure at some point they did run into a wall when it came to the hardware and what they were able to put onto the cart. They probably just decided to switch it over to the Super Nintendo. Because if you look at the Super Nintendo capabilities over the NES's capabilities, it's almost night and day. But then you did have a lot of similarities in these games. So I think it is cool, and I think it does bring up a very good point about when they decided to bring this over. But like I was saying, it is very cool from a preservation standpoint that the guys over the Video Game History Foundation were able to get their hands on this. Because like I said, this could have been lost to time. Like, think about the one guy that owns this thing, right? I'm that dude. I have it on my shelf, and I'm just like, yes, I own the only copy of SimCity for the NES. I am awesome. And no one else will ever have it. That's amazing. And then my house catches fire. Now it's gone. That's not only is that inexcusable, it's selfish, and that's not cool. Like that's like someone having the only written works of Shakespeare and have it in their home, and then their house floods and it's ruined and destroyed and gone forever. Like this kind of stuff. While yes, the collector in me says that, like, yes, you should be able to have this thing and to keep it in your collection, you should also not be able to just like hoard it for yourself and to be the only person with it. Because at some point, like, either it's like you're gonna die, your house is gonna burn down, someone's gonna rob you or something, and then it's gone, and that does a disservice to everybody else. So that's just my take on it, and that's just my feelings on it. So that's really the lesson for today and the episode. What I will do though is for about 3, 4, 5 minutes, I will take any questions from any of the two people in the chat right now, and yeah, then I think we'll sign off. I think it was a pretty good first live episode, if I had to say so myself. I mean, some tweaking to do here. OBS is telling me that I've dropped 12,000 frames, so I definitely have some optimization to do on this end. But I think overall this turned out pretty all right. It definitely could have been a lot worse. My computer could have caught fire. I could have spontaneously combust, things like that. It's just definitely turned out better than I thought it would. So yay to that. Oh man, but it is cool. To be fair, and like I said, I will link this in the VOD description here. Let's see. TNT and TBS are already showing CS:GO matches. Wow, on cable TV, really? See, I've had the cord cut for so long, I didn't know that. Thank you, Catatonic. That is awesome. Man, so that's crazy. It's like we're getting there, man. We're getting there. That's awesome. It's amazing. Like I can't wait for my son to be in the freaking the Super Smash Brothers World Championship hosted on CBS. Fine quality television. Everybody loves Young Sheldon. That show's horrible. But anyway, yeah, the guy the guy that bought one of the carts must have, one, had an inexorbitant amount of money, and two, has very unique fashion sense because he's wearing this trucker hat, and it's pretty funny. I can't wait to link this story. Oh gracious, and my sinuses are going bananas. But it is a really, really cool story. Of course, it's another incredibly crafted article by the people over at the Video Game History Foundation. It's probably like one of my favorite websites to go to. The stuff that they do, if you haven't donated to them and you give a crap at all about this stuff, about the preservation of games history, about just making sure this stuff is around for future generations, go over there and drop them a buck. It's not gonna kill you. It's not gonna tap out your wallet. It is definitely worth the money. I donate to them myself. I give them $2 a month. I know it's not a lot, but you know what? Me and the other couple thousand people, we just throw in $2,000. We just throw in $2, and that keeps the lights on, and I'm happy about that. But if there are no other questions from the class, I think that is going to do it. So again, thank you very much for watching / listening. Remember, Binary Gamer is a podcast you can find on all your podcast services, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Podcasts. If you hold 2 pieces of tinfoil in the air above your head, you'll probably be able to listen to Binary Gamer. You can also head over to YouTube, youtube.com. Go in there and search Binary Gamers. Check out the awesome stuff we do over there. I'm currently going through and archiving all of the future podcast episodes, turning them into video, and then going to be posting those historically. And then going forward with this, the podcast will be on there as well as on Twitch. You can also head over to Twitch, twitch.tv/binarygamer, and check out the awesome stuff we do over there, like this show. And it's freaking awesome, right? It's getting there. It's like we're starting out. We're flapping the wings, getting ready to leave the nest. Maybe fall to the ground, break our neck. Who knows? But we're going to die trying. Yep. But yeah, so that's 2019. And of course, you can find me over on Twitter at iFlipTheSwitch. And yeah, just, news over there about the show, what's going on. Sometimes I just talk about random stuff and post random pictures. And that is going to do it. Again, thank you very much for listening. Have an awesome week. Go play some games, kids. Class dismissed.